hold it up for us to understand. Well, we all believed in fairies, and the folks from fairyland. But the modern child's been running wild and wants to know too much. You see, they've never understood about Red Riding Hood. How could Red Riding Hood have been so very good and still kept the wolf from the door? Father and mother she had none. Well, where in the world did the money come from? If we may ask it, who fills her basket? The fairy books never have said. They say that she was a maid most discreet, and there is no doubt she must have been sweet. But you know and I know that sweet girls must eat. How could Red Riding Hood have been so very good and still kept the wolf from the door? They say that she found a wolf in Granny's bed with a big sunbonnet over his head. But you know and I know what she found instead. How could Red Riding Hood have been so very good and still kept the wolf from the door? We're asking, how could that teensy tot get stuck in such a spot and still keep her innocent air? The tale goes that she cooked some goodies to munch. As it turned out instead, Little Red was the lunch. I've got a theory, in case you query. It probably went like this. She didn't know when she went there that day if she'd find Granny the wolf or the queen of the May. She simply went there to give all her goodies away. The philanthropic dear had hoped to spread some cheer in spite of what fate had in store. She didn't have food stamps or help from a group, cold care, unemployment insurance, or aid from the child welfare. She was simply the greatest. When it came to her catering, she was better than Wimpy's and 40's, McDonald's, and even the Golden Egg. Now she wears all her diamonds, minding the kitchen range. The wolf does the baking, which no one considers strange. And I may just be guessing, but I think she let success in when she let the wolf in. Oh, you deserve a break today. She'll do it your way. You're going to spoil me right. Thank you. Thank you. But you saucy little things, now I know what you want to hear tonight. You know, from this point on, I think we'll all just have a little running conversation. Oh, I mean that. Everything I tell you on the stage is fact and truth. I've had a very long... Oh, yes. Yes, yes. I beg your pardon? Oh, of course. I have the cloak in the cloakroom to prove it. But I've had a very long and a very rewarding career. I've worked almost all the mediums. I've had my own television series. I've recorded. I've been in the movies. I love working in the theater, and I do lots of supper clubs, large and small. My preference is for something small and charming like this one, because I think it's wonderful to be able to be so close to people and sing right to them. The one thing that fate withheld from me, however, is a big monster hit song that would become a theme song for me for my whole career. You know, like every time you heard it, you thought of me. Mary Martin had My Heart Belongs to Daddy, right? Mm-hmm. And Ethel Merman had 647 others. And yet, in looking back over my own shoulder at what I've done in my career, it's been my privilege to have introduced many wonderful, wonderful songs that are classics now. I think some of them will surprise you tonight, and you'll learn that I did them first. When I was just a kid, I went to New York City, and I was in a review with 6 other young kids called The 7 Lively Arts. We each depicted a lively art. And the stars of the show were Beatrice Lillie, Bert Lauer, Markova and Dolan, ballet stars, and Benny Goodman. Cole Porter wrote the score, and in the second act I sang this wonderful song with Benny Goodman. Every time we say goodbye, I die a little. Every time we say goodbye, I wonder why, a little. Why the gods above me, who must be in the know, think so little of me. They allow to go when you're near. There's such an air of spring about it. I can hear a lark somewhere begin to sing about it. There's no love song finer, but how strange the change from major to minor. Every time we say goodbye, every single time we say goodbye. No, I don't want you to applaud. No, I don't want you to applaud now between all these songs because it's very warm in here tonight, and I don't want you to wear yourselves out. If there's something that particularly delights you, just go, oh, I like. And then have a few sips of nice white wine. It'll be cool. And Christopher needs the money. Well, while I then did a show called Are You With It, which was about carnival people, and that's what that means, Are You With the Carnival? And I played Bunny LaFleur, Queen of the Carnival. And I wore about 6 crystal beads and 3 little feathers right here. And I sang a never-to-be-forgotten epic song. To bring that touch of glamour for which the soldiers clamor, I troop with the U.S.O. 2, 3, 4. I just want to see if you were paying attention. While that show was running, Rodgers and Hammerstein presented Annie Get Your Gun in New York, and you know, of course, it was a smash hit. And they were looking for a girl to send to London to do the production over here. My agent tried to get an audition for me, and they said, you mean the girl with all the long blonde hair and the beads and feathers? Well, she's really wrong for the part. So they auditioned for 6 months. And finally, I guess they ran out of people because I finally got my audition. And I wore flat heels and an old skirt and sweater, hoping to look more like what they were looking for. And I auditioned on the stage with just a work light, and they were all seated out front in that darkened theater. Richard Rodgers, Oscar Hammerstein, Josh Logan, who directed, Herbert and Dorothy Fields, Helen Tamiris, who choreographed. And after about an hour, they said thank you, And within a few seconds, Rodgers and Hammerstein came up on the stage, and they said, Dolores, come with us. They picked up a telephone at the stage door and sent a cable to Emil Littler. And it said, we have just found Annie, Love, Dick, and Oscar. That's the truth. So I didn't have to go home and worry it out. I had the part that very day. And what a wonderful opening night the English gave us here. It was 22 curtain calls. They didn't want to go home. They stayed in the Muse. We sang all the songs again. I played Annie 1,304 times. Never once got tired of her. The show ran 3 years, and I think my favorite song in the show was in the second act when Chief Sitting Bull and Annie are returning from a triumph in Europe. She only wants to see Frank Butler's out. And Papa Bull watches her one day and says, Annie, when you fall in love with... He was Indian, you know. And Annie answered, when I seen him, don't ask me just how it happened. I wish I knew. I can't believe that it happened. And still it's true. I got lost in his arms, and I had to stay. It was dark in his arms, and I lost my way. From the dark came a voice, and it seemed to say, there you go. There you go. How I felt as I fell, I just can't recall, but his arms held me fast, and it broke the fall. And I said to my heart, as it foolishly kept jumping all around, I got lost. But look what I found. I told you it was a little warm in here tonight. You ought to be up 4 feet against the lights. Well,
thank you.
When you've had that kind of success, you worry a lot. You worry if you'll ever have it again. Or you worry if you'll ever be able to go back across the water and even have a small measure of that in your own home, in your own country. Fate was good to me. I got right off the boat after 3 years and went to the Mark Hellinger Theater. Started rehearsing a review with the greatest clown that was ever in the theater. His name was Bert Lahr. It was a review called Two on the Aisle, written by Comden Green and my dear friend Julie Stein. And they wrote a song for me that's one of the nuttiest songs I ever had to learn in my life. There he goes, as usual, my man, tearing my heart apart. He's made my life a mess. I have to do this, I guess. Goodbye, Joe. From here I kiss you. Goodbye, Joe.